Hello, religion thinkers, and welcome to another short video explaining the meaning of religion. I'm Dr. James Rowell, and today we will see how the problems of evil, science, and religious pluralism cause us to decide the religious question of trilemma differently as theists, atheists, or agnostics. What causes us to differ so much in our opinions about religion? Having taught world religion for over 15 years, I see at least three things that can divide us. First, we have the problem of there being evil in our lives. Second, we have the rise of science as a competitor to religion. And third, we have the issues of religious pluralism, which might be a problem or might be a benefit also. Let's consider the problem of evil first and use baseball as an analogy. See if you can catch this idea. Let's consider four propositions and imagine them as bases in baseball. Let's say you hit the ball and bang, you make it to first base. God exists, you discover, and there is the first proposition we begin with. Then you make another hit, or perhaps you just want to steal second base. You get to second base and you realize God is good. You're feeling pretty good about the game and about getting to second base. Then another play lets you get to third base and you realize not only is God good and God exists, but God is all-powerful. These are basic ideas many religions would affirm. So you're at third base and feeling pretty good about yourself. Maybe you'll win the game of life, but then just as you're ready to get to home plate, you run into the problem that evil exists. Huh, you wonder? How could I not get to home? What happened to this crummy game of baseball? It was all going so well. But how could God exist, be good and all-powerful, and also allow evil to exist? These four propositions do not fit so well together as bases on a baseball diamond, do they? Ouch! How could I not get to home plate? That is the problem of evil for you. That if God was all of these things, had all of these powers, how could God allow evil to exist? Can I still get to home plate and believe in God? The answer is yes. One response to the problem of evil is free will. That God had to allow for evil so that we could have free will. In short, we can only know and choose love if we also can know and choose evil. Otherwise, we are robots with no real free will. Another reason might be for human growth. If there were no evil, nothing to oppose, we would have no challenge and no cause to change and grow. So let's take some other responses to the problem of evil. How can we further defend this religious idea? We might also ask, why should we think of God in strictly human terms? Why should God act in ways that meet our expectations? We aren't the infinite omniscient beings, are we? One explanation for evil is God's mysterious ways, which seems like kind of a lame joke answer, and I would agree with that. It's not my favorite answer. But again, why should we anthropomorphize God? That is, make him fit our human expectations. One further response to the problem of evil is that we can not expect God to do the impossible. After all, we can imagine the earth as a globe, or perhaps as a cube, but you can't really imagine God creating an earth that is both a cube and a globe, can you? Should we therefore expect God to do what might be argued to be logically impossible, to create a world that is wholly good with no evil? How fun would that be? Now, this doesn't answer all the questions about the problem of evil, but it does give you something to think about. Let's move on to the rise of science next. Religion was called the Queen of Sciences at one point because it had an explanation for everything. Where you came from, what you should do, and where you may be going. Maybe, and many would say, that religion no longer has such a monopoly on all these answers. Where once religion was really the only answer, now science offers viable explanations and alternatives. For one, Astronomy, since Galileo's time, has challenged the authority of some religious views. Our Earth is no longer the center of all things as we once imagined. It's a much bigger universe. Biology and the science of evolution have given also another hypothesis of how humans arrived on Earth. The Garden of Eden story and much of the Bible might seem to be threatened by this. And science has continued. With modern neuroscience, we have a lot of evidence to link mental functions, perhaps thought to belong to the soul, to the physical processes of our minds. Together, astronomy, biology, and neuroscience are just three that have challenged the former dominance of religion. There are a lot of further questions to raise. I'll give a brief plug for a book that has been around for a while. I've used it a lot of time in the classroom, and the book is titled Science and Religion by John F. Hott. It is a pretty reasonable introduction to the subject. Hott portrays 4 ways of thinking about the relationship between science and religion. The first of these ways is conflict. This simply sees religion and science as at odds, in conflict. They are at the intersection of the possible and the impossible, and either one or the other has to be the right path to choose. The contrast school of thinking says something else, that science and religion really don't conflict or even overlap. This is the contrast way of thinking. Science may be about facts, and religion is about values, as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. once suggested. So there really isn't a big deal or problem here. I prefer to think of myself as subscribing to Hott's third view, contact. Science and religion both have metaphysical concerns. What the world is, what created us, if anything. These are ultimate points of concern at which they overlap, share some common ground, and may potentially be at odds or in conversation. The last view which Hott suggests is the confirmation view, that the more we learn about science, the more we will be confirmed that there is a great truth in religion. Hott has many other books on religion and science, and I would encourage you to check them out. There may also be a problem in thinking about religion because of the sheer numbers of religious beliefs out there. Here you see a number of religious texts: the Christian Bible, the Jewish Tanakh, the Muslim Quran, and the Hindu Bhagavad Gita, as well as the Buddhist Dhammapada. Which religion is correct? The texts are not in exact agreement. Additionally, did God incarnate, that is, take on human flesh? Christianity says yes, in the form of Jesus Christ. But Hindus believe that Vishnu, one of their deities, incarnated 9 times in different avatars to save the world. Muslims believe that God never took human form. That would be anathema to them. And Buddhists would think that there is no God to incarnate, so it's really a silly question. In fact, Buddha strongly disavowed the importance of the God idea and denied the existence of an eternal soul, 2 things which are absolutely essential to other faiths. So the sheer number of religions and their differing faith statements makes for quite a difficult puzzle to wrap your head around. All of this can seem to lead to a maze of disagreement. Can religions really agree upon anything? One school of thinking, a very traditional old school way of thinking, would insist that I'm right and you're wrong, and basically go on arguing. There really are no compromises, and only one tradition is correct. Now, just because I call this the old school way of thinking doesn't mean it's necessarily wrong. A more hopeful and inclusive way of thinking would be a new universalism, that instead of looking at a particular text or tradition as infallible, the focus becomes a core of morality which religions might agree upon. Each tradition has a meaningful and indispensable part to share in making sense of life. Now that's a warming and hopeful image, but I can understand if you think it a bit soft and fuzzy. That's cute, that's adorable, but is it realistic? Like looking out from a wet windshield, does it offer a clear vision of a single religious truth? Maybe not. It seems there are all sorts of shades of religious thinking outside of these two views also, and that is why agreement is so hard to come by. So when you think about it, Trilemma as a choice of three religious and philosophical doors to enter, atheism, theism, and agnosticism, there are an awful lot of questions behind it. We all answer the questions differently and divide into distinct religious perspectives. The problem of evil, the rise of science, and the problems of pluralism are just three things that help bring about these divisions. Pride and nationalism would be a very important fourth one to add, as our religions are invariably connected to our national and cultural heritage. That would probably demand a separate video, which I may get to. Well, that's it for today. I don't pretend to have answered or addressed all the questions, but I hope I have given you sufficient food for thought. Thank you for listening, religion thinkers, and please subscribe and stay tuned for the next video.